The N64 was home to some of the most groundbreaking games back in the day, allowing you to control an avatar in 3D space, which now probably doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but back then it was a very foreign concept. Developing consoles and video games is such a daunting task in and of itself, but one of the most important things that makes a game or console good is the controller you play it on. The N64 controller was very different than anything that was out at the time. I mean, just look at this thing. What am I looking at? Well, I'm glad you asked, Dave. Welcome back to What the F Am I Looking At? The show where we answer the age-old question of what the F am I looking at?
Yeah, what the F am I looking at?
I'll show you. It's an SNES controller. Now that's all the time we have for this week, folks. But tune in next week when we take a look at a chainsaw that also doubles as a controller. This really is just an SNES controller, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, the SNES controller was awesome, so if it ain't broke, don't break it. The reason it looks this way is because they designed it for multiple hand positions to play different games. But honestly, the worst part about this controller is the joystick. They always break. Wait, this is broken? I have multiple N64 controllers, and every single one of them has a broken joystick. I know, I was a kid when I had this, and I mean, we all know that kids are the best at taking care of things, right?
Hey Sky, look at this!
I purchased a replacement N64 joystick. Keep in mind, this is an aftermarket one, not an official Nintendo release one, so I don't know how it would compare to an official one, but it was an easy replacement and it works really well. You can go onto eBay and pick one up for around 11 bucks. But I recently purchased a GameCube style N64 joystick, and I wanted to do a comparison test to see which one I like better. And you can also pick this one up on eBay for around the same price. Right off the bat, I will say the GameCube joystick feels very smooth and moves with ease. Definitely feels like a modern joystick, while the N64 joystick feels pretty stiff, better than a broken one, but it still doesn't feel as good as the GameCube. One thing to note is since the GameCube joystick isn't as skinny as the regular N64 one, it won't be as precise because it's too big to fit in any of the corners. Now, that being said, let's see how big of an effect that will have. Let's start off with a cult classic, Mario Kart. As soon as you start playing with the GameCube joystick, you can tell an immediate difference in how much control you have over your characters. The original definitely has more precise movements, allowing you to make more subtle adjustments. Also, the dead zones on the GameCube style joystick are bigger, which means you have to move the joystick farther to trigger input, which it might be intentional that way because it's a lot easier to move it. Now with something like a racer, Mario Kart specifically, I'm not too picky with it. You can feel a difference, but for me it's not that big of a deal. I will say that the GameCube style joystick does feel a lot better on my thumbs with having a rubber tip, and it has less resistance. You can really feel the difference in control and subtle movements when it comes to aiming. In GoldenEye, trying to aim in this game is a pain as it is, but the GameCube joystick falls short in this department. Trying to be precise and hit a target far away is pretty rough. The N64 joystick definitely wins in the precision category. Finally, I put it to the test with Mario 64, and yes, you can tell the difference in character movement. But for me, it didn't affect how bad I am at video games at all. It was still just as easy for me to miss jump or fall off the edge or walk right into enemies. So in conclusion, the GameCube joystick isn't as precise, but it feels good to use. Way smoother moving it around, and you get a soft tip thumb grip. Plus, you don't feel like you're going to snap the joystick with every movement. The N64 joystick is fine too. It's more precise for character movement and aiming, but it is stiff to move around and feels outdated. So, I mean, the question is, which is better? Steam controller. It has a trackpad, and everybody loves trackpads.
Trackpads f***ing suck.
Don't get me wrong, I love the N64 controller, and back in the day, everybody did. But if you didn't grow up with the N64, you probably hate it. And to that I say, I mean, good on you. It's not that good of a controller nowadays. But if you're wanting to play an N64 in 2020 and get the most authentic N64 experience, then you need to buy a third-party controller with a broken joystick.
Hey, watch out!
What am I looking at?
Try to be a little louder. But yeah, I like the tone though.
Yeah, what the f am I looking at? Why is nobody else moving? I don't feel so good.
Okay.
I just shit myself. Yeah, what the f am I looking at?
Here, make sure you look at like the exact same spot on the wall.
I'm scared. F you, truck.
Yeah, that does suck.
F***ing piece of shit. F you.
For real.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, what the f am I looking at? I swear to fucking Christ, I'm gonna shoot that guy, whoever's driving that truck.
I'll tell you through the truck.
And Slade's on truck look.
Hey, Sky, look at this! Oh, jeez! Hey, Sky, look at this! I am so sorry. Hey, Sky, look at this! I don't know what... Hey, Sky, look at this!
Ouch! Ouch! He threw it at my foot.
I'm so sorry.
That might be the one.
Yeah.
That might be the one that's in the shot. Thanks so much for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe, and maybe check out these other videos that you might be interested in. We did one talking about the N64, and here's another one talking about The Legend of Zelda. Anyway, thanks for checking us out, and as always, keep it rad.